the inheritance that destroyed my illusion. The day my grandmother's attorney smiled, I expected comfort and paperwork about the $42 million inheritance she had promised. Instead, he slid a thick folder across the polished desk and quietly asked, "Mrs. Donovan, did you authorize these transfers?" My heart stumbled as page after page revealed forged signatures, drained company accounts, and properties purchased without my knowledge. Ethan's name appeared everywhere alongside mine, perfectly copied. The life we built together suddenly looked like someone else's carefully staged performance. The lawyer explained millions had disappeared over several years, hidden behind shell companies and fabricated contracts. My inheritance no longer felt like a blessing. It felt like evidence left by fate. I remembered kissing Ethan goodbye that rainy morning, believing love was safe. How could the man I kissed goodbye that morning have been planning this for years without me ever knowing? 15 years earlier, Ethan and I worked from a cramped rented office above an old bakery in Charleston. We shared one desk, borrowed computers, and impossible dreams. Every contract felt like survival, every late night another promise that tomorrow would reward us. We skipped vacations, celebrated tiny victories with cheap pizza, and believed love could outbuild every obstacle. Slowly, our architecture firm became respected, profitable, and admired. Yet success quietly changed our home. Conversations grew shorter, dinners colder, embraces rarer. Ethan stayed later at work, smiled less, and carried invisible walls between us. I blamed stress, ambition, and exhaustion, never imagining those quiet silences were hiding devastating secrets that would soon rewrite every cherished memory, every laugh, anniversary, blueprint, and whispered promise until the truth finally forced me to question everything we ever built together. I first met Lily Brooks during a community charity program for disadvantaged students. She was shy, overwhelmed, and carrying the weight of a future she believed would never arrive. Her father had passed away, her mother worked 2 jobs, and university seemed hopelessly out of reach. Something in her reminded me of my younger self, so I paid her tuition, introduced her to respected professionals, and eventually offered her a position at our firm. Before long, she was joining us for holidays, birthdays, and Sunday dinners, laughing across our table like family. She often hugged me with tears in her eyes, thanking me for believing in her when nobody else had. Looking back now, I wonder if those grateful smiles were hiding dangerous secrets that had already begun destroying my life. Leaving the attorney's office, memories I had buried beneath years of trust began returning with painful clarity. Ethan's endless late-night meetings no longer sounded like ambitious business deals. The unexplained expenses I approved without question suddenly looked like carefully disguised theft. Important company files had disappeared more than once, and he always blamed careless employees. Sometimes he came home carrying the faint scent of an unfamiliar perfume, brushing it off with effortless excuses I never challenged. He stepped outside to answer private phone calls, lowering his voice whenever I walked near. Even his affectionate smiles had started feeling rehearsed. Piece by piece, the ordinary moments of our marriage transformed into evidence. Deep inside, I knew this wasn't merely an affair. Something far darker had been unfolding behind my back for years. I wanted answers, not another argument filled with excuses and carefully chosen lies. So instead of confronting Ethan, I quietly hired a private investigator and a forensic accountant. For the first time in years, I stopped trusting what I was told and started searching for what was hidden. Within weeks, the evidence began arriving in folders that grew heavier with every discovery. Fake consulting companies appeared with names I had never heard before. Bank accounts connected to secret transactions surfaced. Luxury properties had been purchased through layers of complicated ownership structures. Then Lily's name appeared beside several suspicious transfers. The woman I once protected was now connected to the financial trail, destroying everything I built. But the deeper we looked, the more terrifying the truth became. This was not one betrayal. It was an entire hidden life. Investigators discovered Ethan living part-time in a beautiful coastal home outside Charleston. Neighbors believed Ethan and Lily were happily married. I watched from a distance, hidden inside my car, feeling my entire world collapse with every passing second. Then the front door opened and a little girl ran into Ethan's arms shouting, "Daddy." My heart stopped. The child I never knew existed was living inside the secret family he built behind my back. The pain was unbearable, but I refused to react. I needed proof, not anger. Every emotion inside me screamed to confront them, yet I stayed silent because the truth mattered more than my heartbreak. I finally understood Ethan had not simply betrayed my marriage. He had created an entirely separate life while I was still fighting to save the one I thought we shared forever with him. When I returned to my attorney's office, I expected more painful revelations. Instead, he revealed something I never knew about my grandmother. Years before her passing, she had quietly observed Ethan's behavior and noticed the same warning signs I had ignored. The sudden changes, unexplained decisions, and his growing control over my finances had never escaped her attention. She feared I was too trusting to see the truth myself. So she created a legal condition inside my inheritance agreement. If anyone attempted to manipulate me financially or gain access through deception, they would lose every claim to her fortune and trigger a complete investigation. I sat there in silence as everything became clear. Ethan thought he had stolen my future, but he had unknowingly stepped into a trap my grandmother designed years before. Her final gift was not just wealth. It was protection. For the first time in my life, I stopped fighting with emotions and started fighting with facts. I assembled a team of the best legal experts, forensic accountants, cybersecurity specialists, and investigators I could find. Every hidden door Ethan thought was locked began opening. Deleted emails were recovered, forged contracts were exposed, and ownership records revealed properties he never wanted me to find. Surveillance footage confirmed meetings he had denied for years. Financial trails connected every stolen dollar back to the people closest to him. Meanwhile, Ethan continued living confidently, believing I was still the same trusting wife who would never question him. He smiled during meetings, made plans for the future, and acted untouchable. He had no idea that behind the scenes, the empire he built on deception was quietly collapsing piece by piece. The courtroom was silent when Ethan walked in, still believing he could control the outcome. He wore the same confidence that once convinced everyone he was honest. But that confidence disappeared when my legal team began presenting the evidence. One document after another exposed his carefully constructed lies. The forged signatures, hidden companies, stolen millions, and secret properties were displayed for everyone to see. Ethan tried explaining that everything was a misunderstanding, that his actions were necessary to protect our business. But every excuse created another contradiction. The truth was no longer something he could hide. Then my attorney revealed the final condition of my grandmother's inheritance. Because Ethan had manipulated me financially and attempted to gain control through deception, he had no claim to the fortune. The man who planned to take everything from me had unknowingly destroyed his own future. As criminal investigators continued digging, another devastating truth emerged. DNA testing, requested during an unrelated custody dispute, revealed the child Ethan believed was his wasn't biologically his. Lily had been deceiving him too. The revelation shattered the last illusion he had protected for years. Ethan finally understood that he had sacrificed his marriage, reputation, and future for a life built on another person's lies. The woman he trusted had betrayed him just as deeply as he betrayed me. For the first time, I saw the arrogance disappear from his face. He lost everything chasing a dream that was never real. The family he abandoned me for existed only through deception. In the end, Ethan discovered the painful truth. The person he destroyed his life for was never truly his to begin with. Ethan's empire finally collapsed under the weight of his own choices. He faced fraud charges, financial penalties, and the loss of the reputation he spent years building. Lily was held accountable for her role in the deception and watched the life she created through lies disappear. Meanwhile, I returned to the company I had built with my own hands and reclaimed control of my future. My first priority was protecting the employees who had trusted me through the storm. With part of my inheritance, I created scholarships for women pursuing careers in architecture, continuing the legacy my grandmother believed in. She taught me that kindness was powerful but wisdom was necessary. I no longer saw my inheritance as a fortune. I saw it as a chance to create something meaningful beyond myself. Years later, when people asked me about the $42 million inheritance, I no longer thought about the money first. I thought about the truth it revealed and the strength it forced me to discover. My grandmother's greatest gift was never the fortune sitting in a bank account. It was the protection, wisdom, and courage she left behind. She understood that sometimes the biggest dangers are hidden behind familiar faces and loving words. I rebuilt my life, my company, and my trust in myself. I learned that kindness must be balanced with awareness, and love should never require you to ignore your own instincts. The people closest to your heart may be the ones capable of breaking it, but they can never take away your dignity when you choose the truth. In losing my old life, I finally found my real one. Thank you for joining us for this unforgettable story. Your support means everything. Subscribe and become part of our storytelling family for more emotional journeys, powerful lessons, and stories that stay with you. Until the next story, take care of yourself, stay blessed, and may God protect you and your loved ones. Have a good day.